You're listening to Raising Anchor on 990 WBOB. Welcome to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey. Your home for news, analysis, and everything Rhode Island FC. Each week, they take you inside the locker room, inside the tactics, and inside the storyline shaping RIFC. Now, here's Matt and Jason.
Rhode Island FC get set to take on USL1 opponents Westchester SC in Prinx Cup Tire Action this weekend. Can RIFC turn their fortunes around in time to find a path to advance in tournament play? Will Westchester SC finally find a spark to kick off a rather tepid season so far? Or have the USL Script writers already penned this as a draw that nobody wants to think about? Don't you put that evil on us, Ricky Bobby. With Matt out on assignment, I'll be driving the boat tonight. Your favorite co-host, Jason Carey. Joining me is producer extraordinaire, Mr. Torrin Kelly. Torrin, how you doing, my friend?
I'm doing great. I love it when I get called up to the main show. I think this is our first host rotation with this. I've subbed in for you a couple of times with Matt. We've done all three of us, but I think this is the first time you just got the two soccer geeks in the seats.
Now I think about it, this might be the first permutation of just you and me. So should be a fun one. I'm doing great too, but also, did you see FIFA officially banned Vuvuzelas from the 2026 World Cup?
I did. That is an absolute travesty. Travesty.
How are we going to take the Hobbits to Isengard? It's just not going to happen.
Yeah, I feel like the more news that comes out about this World Cup, the more I'm just like, oh God, I can't do it anymore. Please make it stop.
An actual hot take here, though. So did you see they banned reusable water bottles?
I didn't.
So they did, and I actually think that is perfectly acceptable. Because for those of you who don't know, outside of American soccer fandom, international soccer fans can get absolutely wild, and sometimes they throw things onto the field. So, water bottles, whatever it is they have, beer cups, things like that. So it's one of those things that sucks because it seems perfectly rational that you should be able to bring water in the stadium with you. But we also can't trust people because they're idiots. So it sucks, but I completely understand why they have done that. So
yeah, I mean, now that you say that, that makes perfect sense. I think especially with you've got countries from all over where the norms I think are different in the sense of what you can do at a game. There's a lot of countries where I think you buy a ticket and you can kind of do whatever you want to an extent. So I would definitely say that's thinking about that in hindsight. I'll give FIFA this one. They can get that one.
Yeah, the American soccer fandom doesn't always oh man, my team lost, I need to burn the stadium down. It's oh man, I'm just gonna go say mean things online about people.
Yeah, no, I think surprisingly we're not the ones to be worried about for this one for sure.
All right, let's get into some actual USL related news here. USL names 5 clubs in its 2027 sanctioning application. The United Soccer League has included 5 additional clubs in its application for U.S. Soccer for continued sanctioning of its professional leagues ahead of the 2027 season, further strengthening the league's national footprint across the USL Championship and USL League One. The following clubs have been included in the USL's application to U.S. Soccer for the 2027 season, which is scheduled to begin in March 2027. The clubs here in question: Atletico Dallas, that's going to be a championship team. Then we also have Sporting Cascades, that's over in Eugene, Oregon. We've got Port St. Lucie FC, Florida, of course. Another Florida team, Fort Lauderdale United. And then Thousand Oaks, that's in California. Their name is still pending. Those last ones are all set to be, I think, League One there. So.
Yeah, I think for me, I think the Thousand Oaks announcement seems a little bit suspicious timing. For those that don't know, Ventura County FC, which was meant to be an MLS Next Pro team that had been in the works for a little bit of time now, they were meant to partner with LA Galaxy, are set to discontinue after this season, who play nearby. And considering the fact that this team really wasn't on anyone's radar until this announcement, maybe this is the USL trying to muscle back into this sort of market in the LA region. And I mean, I'm all for it.
Yeah, and Alta Vista FC has actually been doing pretty well. So it would be kind of cool to get them some additional, competition there, throwing the fact that there's, other teams such as Orange County, and then you have Sacramento, Monterey Bay. I mean, if any of these other ones eventually come online, California is such a big animal. There's definitely an appetite for soccer there. It's just, it really has to be done well, because they really only, similar to New England out here, they really care about winners. So they're going to need to kind of come out and hit the ground running. But thinking about like the teams that they're setting up here, do you think that we're finding the right balance? Of course we've got more Florida teams. Maybe because the league is stationed there. I don't know. But it is good to see some West Coast teams over there, Boise, Spokane, Alta. At certain point, do you think that we need to maybe look even further into regional play until like more money starts to kind of shore up into this league?
I mean, I think realistically, it's probably not the best balance. I think again, there's probably a better way to do it. It is such a massive country and it's so different from every other, sporting league in the world where the countries are a lot smaller. So it's a lot easier to get that regional play. But at the end of the day, the USL is rapidly growing. It's been growing for so long. Is it not just a case of let's get as many teams in the door as possible that aren't going to fold? Because we're going to get into it in just a moment. But there's so many new projects that are sort of folding in the past 2 years. Is it just kind of a case of let's just get as many teams in as we possibly can?
Possibly. I mean, you would think that the change of leadership that kind of recently got announced, maybe that's something that will inevitably change as we get closer to Pro Rel. I think some of that, we'll start to see what that looks like. But with the good comes the unsurprisingly bad. The Buffalo USL project come out and announced they will not be starting in the 2027 season. They listed a bunch of different reasons for as why that's not going to happen, what they're going to do in the coming months ahead of this. But they're not committed to 2027. There's still radio silence on Milwaukee and Iowa expansions, with OKC and Reno further down the road. I think the big news that's kind of swept under the rug is nothing from Santa Barbara Sky still. And Rodeo Soccer Club for USL1, nothing from there either. It's unclear if they don't have to acquire US Soccer sanctioning before both of these clubs inherited the roster spot from the disembodied Memphis 901 and Texoma FC. But you'd think we'd see some additional sort of like news come alongside this announcement. We see success stories from a lot of these projects constantly, and me and Matt have talked about this in regards to the USL, especially under the new leadership that I just kind of mentioned. What do you think is kind of the right path forward here for the USL as they're looking to expand?
I think it's tough. I think ultimately, I think that the main thing is you need to find out why this keeps happening. Because obviously with Buffalo, is it a wrong start date? Are they not being realistic? But also, like, my thought is like cities as well, or regions. Like, are we picking the best sort of regions? And I guess we mentioned that briefly a second ago. But are we picking the right regions that are ready for this, that want this? I think you look at when we started as a club, this was a New England area that loves this game. That they've loved this game, especially Rhode Island. So it felt just right. And you can see, we had so many new fans coming straight through the door in our first season. So I'm wondering, maybe are they picking the wrong cities for these higher level teams in the championship that sort of need big audiences straight away?
Yeah, I think part of this is going to be a trial and error, right? This is still a developing sport in this country. So, to a certain extent, it's almost like maybe there's in some ways no wrong decisions as if they're getting it out there. Like, there's definitely things are not going to go their way, and they're just going to kind of have to learn from other people's mistakes. Kind of moving on here to our next topic. We've got a event here coming up. Centerville Bank Stadium is hosting the Cape Verdean national team this Sunday, June 7th, in a free event. You just need to go on there, request tickets. You can do that online. The event runs 12 to 5 p.m. with interactive experiences, cultural performances, and our regional men's soccer tournament. It's Sounds like a great time. However, in classic New England fashion, looking at the weather here, looks like there's potential thunderstorms, of course. I mean, our game so far looking like we're going to get some good weather, but not sure how this is going to pan out for that event. Do you think weather permitting you'll turn out for this?
I mean, I'd love to if I can. It sounds like it's going to be an absolute blast. I think I remember when we were in World Cup qualifiers and seeing all of the Cape Verdean like watch parties for when they were qualifying for the World Cup and how big they were. So I just know for a fact that Rhode Island is going to show out. There's going to be so many fans there. So if you can make it down, I think I'd highly recommend it. Hopefully you'll see me there as well.
Yeah. Same thing. I think, weather permitting, and as long as I've got the time, I think I'm gonna try and put that as something on my to-do list here. Speaking of Cape Verde, though, it looks like RIFC got their friendly of the season with Bermuda after all, as the Bermuda FAs traveled down to play a tune-up match against Cape Verde, which included a friendly against Rhode Island FC. According to Defiance 1636 President Irvin Vargas, RIFC won the friendly 4-0. Torrin, thoughts on a midweek match like this heading into the weekend? Do you subscribe to the superstition that we aren't going to make it to the Eastern Conference Final without testing our mettle against Bermuda, as we've done so every other season in this club's existence?
I mean, look, I'm all for superstition. That might be a little far-fetched, but I mean, if we're 2 for 2, then why not? Let's make sure that we keep doing it until it fails. But I think it feels like weirdly good timing. I think when I first kind of thought of it, I was like, oh, I don't know about this. Like, especially if you had told me before the season had started, but we're coming to a very weird point. We're very up and down, where it's, again, especially with the Indy result, there's probably some lack of confidence in there. So to go against maybe a lower level side, I think is great for that confidence. Obviously, if we, shout out to Irvin Vargas, if we did win that game 4-0, then that's great for the confidence, especially for the attackers who weren't able to score against Indy, but also just to kind of keep that match readiness going and get us into a weekend where it may or may not be a must win. We're going to talk about that later. I think it's again, oddly good timing.
Yeah. I think with the upcoming break and the fact that this is lower opposition, you have ability to rotate players. I don't hate it. So, but we got to take a quick break here. And when we return, we're going to break down some table standings, head-to-head records, and start to look up to this upcoming match here. Don't go anywhere. It is the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Thank you for listening to tonight's broadcast, powered by Sprout Coworking. For all your business needs, large or small, visit sproutcoworking.com. Powering 990 WBOB, that's sproutcoworking.com. Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, as we start to get into previewing this match, looking at Westchester and our short history with them, what can you tell us about our head-to-head there with them, Torn?
So, of course, we only have one match between the two sides so far, which was last year, which came at a 4-1 win for Rhode Island in what obviously used to be the Jägermeister Cup, is now the Prinx Cup. 2 goals for JJ Williams, saw the boys get an emphatic win on the road to start what was our great cup run last year, getting all the way to the semifinals. And it was a pretty dominant game for us. All in all, we won the possession battle 56% to 44%, won the shots battle 16-7, and then won the shots on target battle 8-5. So, I mean, pretty all in all, that's a pretty good result. It was actually funny. I was looking at it, and I think it might have been one of, if not the first game that we saw Kano kind of experiment into this back four. So it's interesting. A year later, this back four has become the regular now. And even though we saw us change back to the 3 at the end of last year, we're like a year later, and we've pretty much reverted back to what worked so well against Westchester.
Yeah, I mean, talking to him in the very first season, he mentioned, didn't like lock it down, but he kind of thought of a 4-3-3. So, I mean, maybe that was always the goal there, was to get back to a 4-back line. Looking ahead to this match here, checking out our availability report here. We've got, CJ Williams here being questionable. Similar there with Amity Diop, kind of carryovers from last week's availability until we see an update not going to kind of say that they're ready. Unfortunate for CJ, remains off the squad because this is really a match where you think we could have seen him get some minutes and really, test himself against that opposition. Obviously, with the recent announcements, and we've talked about this recently, Jojea Quizera and Dwayne Atkinson are also missing for international duty. What can you tell us about Westchester's availability here?
So for Westchester, they face some pretty major health concerns, maybe not as in terms of quantity, but definitely in terms of quality, as it's been specifically in net, as both goalkeeper options at the start of the year. Starting goalkeeper Andrew Hammersley went down with a pretty extensive injury back in April. And then following that, backup keeper Mateus Molino will be sidelined with a knee injury. In response to this, though, they have made a pretty decent response. They have signed keeper Luca Marinelli to a 25-day contract, similar to what we did with Rio Hope Gund last year, and we saw how that turned out for us. And then they later extended to the remainder of the season, again, similar to Rio Hope Gund. And then they have just recently activated goalkeeper coach Giano Santucci to the roster, which was a pretty big surprise to me. I don't think I've ever seen that happen. I don't know if you have, Jason.
Not that I can say in the USL. I feel like I've heard of that happening somewhere in it's triggering a vague memory. I'll probably remember it in a few hours, want to go to bed or whatever.
Of course.
Looking at the ref report here, I was able to pull who the refs are. Admittedly, they're not triggering any bells, and I just didn't have the time to research whether or not they refed us before. So maybe the sickos
that when you need them. We need that.
Maybe the sickos out there will get triggered and be like, "Oh no, that guy." But this doesn't ring a bell. We've got a head ref here of Denny Kulanasak, with assistant referees of Nicholas Seymour, Marcus Barnett, and a fourth official of Shay Lane. As we look at RIFC so far in Prinx Cup action here, RFC haven't started the Prinx Cup nearly as well as they did last year in the Jägermeister Cup. After 2 rounds last year, they beat Westchester and Pittsburgh Riverhounds, putting them on 6 points. Impressive win there against Pittsburgh, especially because we've always struggled against them. Looking at this year, in the first round, we saw RFC travel to Hartford, of course, on another rainy New England weekend. And that match saw RIFC put 20 shots on Hartford, but they were unable to find a winner there. Hartford's defense coming up big there for them. The match went to penalties where RIFC bested Hartford there 4-3, getting them that extra point due to league rules, where giving us the 2 points that we kind of remain on here. Next match saw us travel up to Portland, Maine there to take on the Hearts of Pine. Appeared to be struggling at the time, and we kind of all thought they will give us a fight, but we kind of thought that we were gonna get that one, but that was not the plan there. They kind of sucker punched RFC and took the lead after only 3 minutes, gave up a penalty another 20 minutes later, and kind of found themselves down 2-0 at the half. Second half surge and a goal from Logan Dorsey just wasn't enough to claw back any points on the day. Without getting too far ahead of ourselves, saying predictions or anything, what do you make of our cup run so far here?
It really does feel like a bit of a going from, I know the saying's going from 0 to 100, kind of the opposite. We went from 100 to 0. I think even though the Hartford game was only 2 points, you look at the context of the last away day, didn't go to plan with that 3-0 loss, and we were just coming off of another penalty shootout loss against the Revolution. To play so well as we did, putting 20 shots on them, and then going on and getting a result in penalties, which I don't think a lot of us expected to do, that really felt like an all-time high. And it kind of comes plummeting down with the result to Portland, I think, in a lot of ways. We talked about, I know there was a question on the pod, of course, being, is this one of the worst games in Rhode Island FC history? I know you and Matt both disagreed, and I would disagree as well. But just to be put in that category, I think that warrants saying that we went from 100 to 0 in this moment. So maybe not the best start, especially compared to last year. But I still have some maybe delusional hope for us moving forward in this competition.
I'd say I'm somewhat of kind of similar there. I do have a bit of delusional hope. I think when we look at the Hartford match, I don't think that's necessarily a bad result there, considering that they were the champions last year. And while they have struggled to find the back of the net, they've still remained somewhat strong defensively And we know with the rivalry, they're a team that's going to turn up against us. We were able to kind of best Siaha there, if you will, in that penalty shootout. But I guarantee that he gets fired up every time that we play him. So it's just when you get to that Portland match, it's just a bit of a head scratcher there. This team just feels like the game starts and they're just like 5 minutes behind. So it's hard to kind of explain what's going on in their head there as the ref blows the whistle, and it's not a good look, especially in a knockout tournament like this. The season is long. There's plenty of opportunities to kind of correct that and get things back in gear. But in a cup run, you have such few opportunities to actually move forward that falling asleep at the wheel is not going to do you any good. Let's take a quick look here at our guaranteed to be wrong lineup predictions here. We're gonna take a wild guess here. This is probably wrong. Like, hey, what if we saw Castro in net? Why not? Maybe
one day the guy gets some minutes.
Yeah. So we're predicting it, like I said, guaranteed to be wrong. But I think honestly, this is probably a good opportunity for him to get some minutes here. We're thinking of a back line here of Nick Scardina, Karifa Yao, Grant Stoneman, and Frank Darce. Holding midfield here of Zach Harivo, Hugo Bacharach, with Leo Alfonso, Noah Fuson, and Augustine Rodriguez as your attacking midfielders, with Logan Dorsey there up top. How do you feel about this lineup here? Any changes you would make? Any insights there?
I feel good about it, to be fair. I think it's a thing I like and don't like, I would say, with that sort of attacking three right below Dorsey. I think you can kind of play them wherever. In my mind, I had it as Afonso on the right, Fuson as like that second striker, and Augustine on the left. But you could easily see that, honestly, all three of them could play anywhere. And I think it can cause some confusion, but if you get it right on the night, I think you've seen Kano do it well with Afonso and Jojea at times, switching them in the middle of games. That could definitely be something that could confuse Westchester a lot, especially as a team that maybe is a bit weaker defensively, which we'll get into later on in the show. But I definitely would be okay with this line. I think it's a good mix of rotation, but also a strong side that should be able to get 3 points at home.
Yeah, and like as we mentioned, no Jojea, no Busy, so definitely see some rotation here. And I think this is a good opportunity, especially because while the team needs to go for it, we are playing a lesser opposition here, and we're coming up on a break here, right? We've got no midweek matches in the following week unless there's another surprise friendly or something here, and we've got a World Cup break looming. I think that we really want to keep this cup run alive. So I think it's kind of a good opportunity. But at the same time, considering it's Westchester and they're second in the last table, is there an argument to actually even go further than what we did and start even more rotational / fringe players? Like, should we being seen the likes of Dana Rivera, Kevin Vang, Jamin Peters?
I think it depends. I think for me, and it's what I think annoys me more about Portland, is if we had gotten 3 points on the road to Portland, I think you have a lot more sort of wiggle room to start these players. And if it's a halftime and you're either a goal down or you're still tied, then you can maybe bring on your JJs, your Augustines, your Noah Fusons that are going to sort of turn the game around and should get you the win in 45 minutes. But to be a game where you sort of need at a minimum 2 points, realistically, again, we'll get into it later, you kind of need 3 points if you want to continue in this cup. You've got to go somewhat strong. I think definitely you should see those players on the bench because, of course, this is a game where I think I could see you going into halftime or maybe even like the 60th, 70th minute up by 2, maybe even 3 goals, in which case you should definitely see Rivera getting minutes. You should definitely see Kevin Vang getting minutes because he's always going to get the crowd going, especially with a sold-out stadium. I think definitely keep him on the bench, but sadly, I think with that Portland loss, we're just not at a point where we can sort of do that and still, lose some points here.
Yeah, no, I think that's a perfectly fair assessment. Looking at what could be our X factor in this match against Westchester, I'm going to go with no Fuson. I feel like he's been starting to get some momentum. I feel like there's kind of a spark there, and even if it's against the lesser opposition, I think this is an opportunity for him to put up some numbers. And I think at the end of the day, like, he's not going to be like, well, that assist and goal didn't count because it was against Westchester. It's like, no, that's going to build his confidence and kind of get him back so that he can start testing, pushing the starting lineup to maybe get himself back in there.
Oh yeah, for sure. I think he sort of needs that confidence, I think, and I fully agree with you. And I've gone with a similar route in terms of players gaining momentums. I think he's been really good these last few weeks. I think especially coming on against Indy, I thought he was one of our best players and kind of switched the game immediately. And to sort of have him, who's a very different option to an Augustine or an AST, like available and playing really well, I think would be really important going into the, middle and later stages of this year. For me, again, gone similar in terms of a player that's gaining momentum. I've gone with Logan Dorsey. I'm here with Ben Johnson in the chat right now agreeing. I think over the last 3 or 4 games, he's been really good. And I think he's really due for that sort of breakout performance, especially against a side who's conceded 5 goals in the first 2 games in this tournament. They're clearly not the best defensively, so to maybe get him 1, maybe even 2 goals in this game, I think this would be major.
Yeah, I mean, he scored against Portland, so why not against Westchester? We got to take another quick break here, but when we return, we'll break down Westchester's role to play on the weekend, all here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Fans, as the weather becomes more and more unpredictable, be sure to check out 990 WBOB's weather page for all your temperature, storm, and travel info. Stay prepared for whatever Mother Nature has in store with the 990 WBOB weather page. Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
Last year was Westchester's first year in USL League One. They had a bit of a rough start to it. They started to figure things out a bit later on, but never really reached any actual real heights there. How have they been doing so far this season?
I think it's been a bit of the same, definitely a rough start to their season. And look, as someone that can, as an RIFC fan, I get the rough starts. I feel for you. All right. They're currently at a 2. Yeah, it still hurts. All right. It still hurts. They are at a 2-1-6 record at the moment in the USL League One. They're 4 losses on the bounce in all competitions, so definitely not going the way they want. And it's not really picked up as well. I think you kind of expect around this time, maybe if you are, a good team, you're underperforming, this is when it starts to pick up. We saw it with us last season, even the season before, maybe a bit later, but you kind of expect to at least see some better performances. And these last 4 games have definitely been rough for them. They currently rank bottom in clean sheets in League One, and they rank 14th for goals conceded per match. So you can kind of start to see where the issues are lying for this team.
Yeah, they definitely have been doing too well. When we kind of look at the more of their stats there, the only things that they're actually doing well here are in top 5 of the league is interceptions, clearances, and saves. So that just tells me they are doing a lot of defending and they're kind of holding on for dear life there.
Yeah, they're definitely. This is last 10 minutes of the game is the full 90 in your own third, just praying, get that ball loose.
Yeah. So with that being said, if we're going to look just specifically at their form, all comps in the they have 1 win and 5. 4 consecutive losses. Like they're definitely struggling here.
Yeah, I mentioned it. It's again, it's a point of time in the season where you'd start up as a fan, hope to think that it's going to start to turn around, that this is actually a team that's good, that's underperforming. And it's just not really happened, especially if you look at the Prinx Cup. It's definitely been an even more rough start somehow. They've conceded the 2nd most goals out of all teams in the Prinx Cup. They had a 2-2 against Portland, where they did get the win on penalties. So that is obviously a great point to have in the Prinx Cup rules. But then they had a 3-2 loss against the Cosmos, which was a pretty insane game. You had fights amongst the fan bases during the matches. I think fans were trying to tear down each other's flags. Maybe are we getting a little bit of a New York rivalry there?
Yeah, maybe. I mean, obviously don't condone any of that, but it is it is kind of good. Like, it's fun in a way to see that, like, we're starting to maybe take this sport a little more seriously. Not to the point where, like, we talked about at the top of the show, where we have to ban items because people are going to use them as weapons. But you know, it is fun to see that this sport is growing some momentum in this country, and fan bases are taking it a little more seriously and kind of getting a little more heated there. You know, we might as well incorrectly predict their team's lineup roster.
Why
as
not?
well, because we don't care about them. So let's give this a shot here.
Yeah, so for Westchester's projected 11, we've gone with Marinelli in net. Seems to be the only option, unless they would like to put their goalkeeper coach in net. At right back, we have gone with Jennings, who seems to be the out-and-out starter. Same with the two center backs, Bowman and Pierre, with Powder, one of the brothers, starting at left back. They normally go with a 4-3-3. You could also call it a 4-2-3-1. That midfield sort of rotates a little bit. Normally McGlynn and Armas, the two more defensive ones, with Evans in at the 10 position. But again, this is sort of a midfield three that likes to rotate around. Burka will start on the right with Dean Gezin. Again, seems to be their danger man, which we'll get onto later in the show. On left, striker's a tough one. They've got a couple different options. No one seemed to really find their footing yet, despite them being a pretty good goal-scoring side. But we've gone with Blumestein. I'm going to hope that I said that right. I'm very sorry if I didn't.
Some that we can only do our best here. Some of these names, you know, unless we're actually fans watching the team, you know, it's hard to get those right. Looking at this lineup here, thinking about, like, you know, how much of last week's starting 11 are lock-ons to this point. Like, if we look at this team's schedule here, they've got a pretty busy week. They're taking on Fort Wayne at home on Wednesday. I don't know if you've seen any of Fort Wayne, but I actually watched one of their games against Indy, doing some homework against them. They are a fun team to watch. I don't know what it is about them. They're very direct. They've got really good ball movement. They're really great about finding passing lanes. Like, they are a fun team. So
the way the game should be played, not firing a shot at any London team at the moment.
Yeah, but I digress. Fun team to watch, but they're also taking on Greenville Triumph the following Sunday. So, looking at how they're doing in the Prinx Cup, and we'll bring up the standings here real quick. They're down there at the bottom in the basement with us. Like, their coach might not be taking this match very seriously. It's, you know, he might be thinking of it having one eye on these league games. What are we thinking about? Do you think we're going to see the strongest lineup for out there? Are they maybe already going to cash in and just say maybe next year?
I mean, it's tough for me to imagine 2 games in that you'll see anyone cashing in, even League One sides. I think this sort of feels like the last, like, best option. Like, I think if either team loses here, it's kind of them done. So if I were Westchester, I would just go all out. Same thing where you need a confidence game. You've lost 4 out of your last 5. It's not looking good for them as a coach. If you could go in away to a sold-out Central Bank Stadium and get a win, not only the confidence for the players, but for the fan base, that would be huge. So in my opinion, it feels like, and obviously we talked about the World Cup break coming up soon, so you do have some rest coming. It would feel dumb not to sort of put everything in. And if it doesn't work out, you can kind of throw in the towel after that with the next 3 games coming up.
Yeah. No, I mean, that absolutely makes sense. It's just each coach has a different approach to how they want to handle things. And we've all seen teams, you know, in different leagues kind of just be like, you know, cup competitions next year. You know, when we look at this Westchester team, you know, looking at where they're kind of their most dangerous, where they're most vulnerable in terms of their lineup and tactically, like, vulnerability is pretty clear. It's their defense, right? They've only kept 1 clean sheet this season in the league, and allowing goals in both Prinx Cup matches. You know, they're simultaneously giving up 2 goals in each USL Cup match. You know, they have the ability to score, though, and that's the thing, is that they've scored 4. You know, but at the same time, they can't defend to a certain extent.
to save their lives, I think was the word you were looking for there. I think, yeah, I've got to agree. I think defensively is definitely the issues. Again, we've read all the stats. It's pretty clear to see, which is honestly interesting to me as obviously you've had the goalkeeper issues with injury, but the back line has stayed very similar throughout the season. I'm surprised we haven't seen more sort of tinkering from the coach. Again, I am not a Westchester super supporter, so maybe there's some issues there that I don't know about. Maybe there's a lack of depth. But for me, that dynamic attack is a tough one. I think as well as being a good attacking players, it's very sort of different. We mentioned that midfield three likes to sort of change a lot. Those wingers are very dynamic. The three that we're going to talk about, Kyle Evans, Dean Gezin, and obviously returning to Central Bank Stadium, Connor McGlynn. Those are the three that I think were the most dynamic in this team and really can cause a lot of team issues. So I definitely would not be in any way sleeping on this Westchester side.
Yeah, no, definitely not. We've seen, when we play USL1 teams that most of the time they are up for it, and you kind of can't sleep on them. The actual gap between the championship and League One is not that huge, especially for most teams, right? Maybe, Louisville of seasons past is, head and shoulders above them. But for the most part, most teams, there's very minimal gap there. And if you don't take them seriously, you could kind of, be left wanting more. Speaking of that dynamic attack and some of their attackers here to kind of watch out for, you mentioned one, Dean Gezin here. He's a Dutch left-footed winger. He's been kind of playing well for Westchester here. He's recorded 4 goals so far this season. And he's got some past experience in the Dutch Eredivisie there and the Polish league there. He's a creator and attacker. He's looking to kind of cause some issues there on our right side. Likes to he creates plenty of chances. Has not recorded any assists yet, but his numbers are up there in the top of the USL1 division.
Yeah, and for me, the big X factor has to be Kyle Evans, this really good young attacking talent. I know some of the sickos will know who I'm talking about. He typically plays on the right or through the middle. I think he kind of plays best in that 10 position from what I've seen. He spent some time with the New York Red Bulls Academy at Marist College and the Hudson Valley Hammers. He hasn't exploded yet in terms of the numbers, but when you really look at the eye tests, I think you can see that he is a phenomenal player. He's only got 1 goal and 1 assist to his name so far, but he's a very consistent player too. Feels like every game he's putting really strong performances, both sides of the ball too. He's not just an attacking threat. He's very solid when he's pressing and trying to win that ball back. So he's definitely someone that's looking to make a name for himself. And what better to do that than at a sold out stadium against a USL championship team?
Yeah. And speaking of X factors, I mean, it potentially could be one of these 2 players here, kind of breaking that down. Westchester has struggled to defend away. They've given up 11 goals on the road so far this season, and they've only scored 2. I think if they have any sort of X factor, I think it will be that kind of their mentality, like their chip on the shoulder, and it kind of will be maybe a self-inflicted wound by RIFC if they underestimate them and kind of allow them the opportunity to play into the match. The only wins that this Westchester team have so far this season are at home.
Yeah, I mean, look, I fully agree with you that this game is going to come down to us. It's how that typically works when you are a bigger side playing against a side in the league below you. If I had to go for a specific player, as much as I think Kyle Evans is great, I've got to stick with you and go Dean Gezin. I think he's already doubled his goal tally from last season. He had 2 goals all last season, and he already has 4. If that shows you that the player's in form, I don't know what does. And he's also leading the team in both shots and chances created. So he's easily been their sort of danger man this season. So, as with us who sort of struggled on that counterattack, to have a quick left-footed left winger who wants to score goals, wants to get in the box, that could definitely be a bit of a tricky moment for RIFC in some moments in this game.
I hate to bring it up, but at the same time, I don't believe in jinxes or superstitious. Whatever's going to happen is going to happen based upon things that my words have no control over. So with the recent performances, thinking about the Portland result, is there any possibility that this is a team with their back against the wall? We underestimate them and they kind of get a shock result against us?
I mean, look, I think as much as I'd love to sit here and say that we're too good for that, I think we've evidently seen that we are not. This game is, again, we've seen
Well,
it
then
on paper.
have we learned our lesson? I guess.
I guess. We'll find out. Sorry to all those that tune in for the great analysis, but my analysis is we'll find out on Saturday. But no, I think for me, this is like really eerily similar to the Portland game, where everything sort of feels right. It's a team that's not doing well. They're not doing great defensively. They're maybe not doing good as they should have. They're definitely underperforming. We're going into a game where we should definitely win as a league side below. And obviously the Portland game didn't turn out the way that we wanted it to. I think the fact that it's home is a big thing for us, and the fact that it is the first sold-out game of the season. You'd hope the players would feel that sort of pressure on them and wouldn't underestimate them. But for sure, this could easily be a sort of bounce back game for Westchester. In no way, if we underestimate them, it will end up like Portland for sure.
Hopefully that's not the case. We got to take our last break here. And when we return, we've got the biggest storylines for Saturday's showdown, all here on the Raising Anchor Soccer Show.
Now, let's get back to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show on 990 WBOB with Matt Entrican and Jason Carey.
All right, Torin, this is kind of a bad word around here, but not here, so it's okay. We're going to bring this up. Is this a must-win game? If we think about this, this is a cup competition. And while we do need some results to go our way, if we want any chance of survival here, this kind of actually is a must-win game. That this team has to pick up points here to get the to kind of put themselves in a position to move forward. And this is a team that we should be beating, but like we've talked about, it doesn't always translate well to RIFC.
Yeah, I mean, look, we've kicked out Matt, so we can ask the real questions here. We've got control now. For those of you watching not on YouTube, just know that me and Ben Johnson in the chat are completely locked in right now. Every single answer has been the same. I fully agree. Ben Johnson says, back against the wall, Kano can't lose 2 games to a League One side. And he's fully right that this game is huge. I think as much as it's huge for the cup, I think it's more big for like the confidence and momentum of this team. I think you're coming in 1-0 loss to Indy. We haven't seen the bounce back that I think we thought we were going to get with results against Tampa Bay. Even if you look back further against Lexington, those are games like, oh, we're back now, but then we drop another game. I think you need to see 1 or 2 games in a row that continue. And especially when we talk about the cup, as much as I think I am mainly pessimistic on our odds of getting through at the end of this and getting to the next round. If we lose, this does feel like a sort of thing where that's it. That's it for us. This is a must-win game if we want to look forward onto the next round of the cup.
Yeah, but like if we get knocked out, I want to see us win both of our last games and just say, hey, we maybe kind of had a bit of a slip up there against Portland, but hey, we did our best and just results didn't go our way. Like I would feel okay about that. If we don't put up the performances here that like we can at least feel proud of and just say, hey, we kind of messed up one. It is what it is. On to next year. I think fans might be a little upset there, but at the same time, like bringing up a counterpoint in regards to this match, do you think there's any chance that like both of the coaches don't take this seriously and just say like, we're at the bottom, we're knocked out, let's just do some sort of tune-up tactics, let's all play the kids, and we're both worried about our league play?
I guess in theory it could be, but again, it's a cup. It's the magic of the cup, as they say. Like, if you do that and let's say you draw whoever wins on penalties, and then you look at the results and Hartford's lost and Brooklyn's lost, as coaches, you are the ones that look like the fools here, because if you had won, we would have put ourselves in a great scenario. As I said earlier, it feels like this is sort of the last one. If either team come out with a loss against this one, then it's done. Then mathematically, there's no real point. But this is the kind of last game where if you win, there's still a chance, and you've got to leave it up to the magic of the cup. You never know what's going to happen in the games next to us.
Yeah. We got another reunion here. Connor McGlynn coming back to Centerville Bank Stadium here. He's kind of solidified himself in the center of the park for Westchester and has been doing well for himself so far this season, despite his team's results. He has also picked up 4 goals this team. Do you think he's going to cause any problems for RIFC on the night?
Well, I think it's definitely possible. I think and this may just be me, like, I love Connor McGlynn. I loved him when he played for this team before, even though he maybe wasn't on the best form for us and obviously left after 1 season. But I loved him in that year. For me, McGlynn has really sort of settled into this new role at Westchester in the past season and a half. He's a much more attacking, sort of goal-scoring midfielder. He's not really the most creative player, but he always seems to be in the box at the right space at the right time to get himself on the score sheet. I think
so. Poor man's Frank Lampard, if you will.
Okay, that I was gonna say Scott McTominay from Manchester United. I think
I was going with the deep cuts here. Pull under your heartstrings for Chelsea.
Yeah. I mean, maybe that's a bit. Let's not compare him too much to the best player in my club's history, but I think he reminds me a lot of Scott McTominay in the way of you're not worried about him for 90 minutes, but if you forget about him for 1 moment, he will get on the score sheet and he will hurt you. So as much as maybe he's not a player that throughout the whole entire game is going to be a constant threat, if you give him that bit of space to get a shot away, he will score and he will cause problems for this RAFC in and around the 18-yard box.
Looking on to whether or not RAFC have any opportunity to get to the next round here, we kind of got, like I mentioned, we got to look at what the other teams here. Hartford, Hearts of Pine, both top of the group here, 4 points. The gap being only 2 points to the bottom makes it mathematically possible, but like some results kind of also have to go our way because we do not play those teams anymore. Looking at this round specifically, Hartford has New York Cosmos away, who haven't been great, but I don't know, maybe they'll start a fight and then the game will be canceled or something, Hearts of Pine just had a midweek game away to Corpus Christi. They actually just lost last night 3-2.
No, sorry to interrupt, but did you see that game? Did you watch that game?
No, I was kind of like actually working on the show notes. I saw that it was like 1-1 or something. I was like, okay, I'll check back in it later.
I think I was similar. I think I had the notes up and had the game on in the background. Portland actually played like a really solid 90 minutes. And then in the last like 8 minutes, it was a pretty close game. I think a little bit closer than they would have liked with Christie being bottom of the league. But they had a corner. They crossed it in, and Hunter Morrissey literally dropped it into his own net. Like no contested, no one was on him. Hands up, dropped into his own net. And I was like, oh, I can't believe they just dropped 2 points because of that. And Hunter Morrissey's been great all season long. Maybe 30 seconds later, Christie win another corner and they score immediately after to win their first ever game in League One. And in their it may be in their history. I don't know if they've won in the cup. It was the most bizarre ending I think I've ever seen in a USL game.
You got to love USL. It's absolutely for the sickos. But to get back here to this, there's a lot of permutations on what can happen here. Any predictions on how this group is going to pan out here?
Yeah, I think for me, as sad as it is to say, I think Hartford should claim a pretty easy 3 points away to the Cosmos. They're also similar to Westchester, winless in 4 at the moment. So I think Hartford will pretty easily claim a 3 points. You never know. The Cosmos might start some fights, might, use that New York grit, and maybe we'll see a result there. Portland, Brooklyn. That should be an interesting game. Brooklyn are coming off of what I thought was a very lucky draw to Sporting Jacks. I don't know if you watched that game, but obviously the weather saw that it got called off early. And this was coming off Sporting Jacks scoring 2 goals pretty much back to back and definitely had the momentum moving forward.
Something woke up in that team though, too. They got a 4-4 draw against San Antonio just before that. So I don't know what's going on down there.
Yeah, they look like they're kind of starting to fight back here, which is obviously good for them. So again, Brooklyn not looking great. And then, of course, the game before that being against us, which was, not great for them. A very good win for us. And then, of course, Portland coming off of this bizarre freak game against Corpus Christi. But they do have a very good history of cup sets. Just recently, obviously, they beat us at home as well as beating Detroit at home last season. I think I would narrowly give it to Brooklyn because I do think that the Hearts' home field advantage is a big thing. And the fact that it is in Brooklyn will maybe see them play a little bit less and maybe not get that cup set that they're used to. But that should definitely be an interesting one to watch.
Yeah. We're running late here. We got to wrap it up real quick. So what do these teams need to do to take 3 points? This should be a foregone conclusion. RFC cannot afford to go down early. They need to take this serious. They need to put out a professional performance, as coach would say. What do you got, Torrin?
I think obviously for Westchester, I think you need to see a bit more balance, defense to attack. You need to kind of be disciplined throughout that full 90. You've seen them, lack off in moments. And I think for RIFC, you just need to break down that defense. Honestly, we need to look at forward passing. We can't just be looking sideways and backwards all game like we kind of did against Indy and Portland, as I talked about with our player ratings on our Raising Anchor Instagram. So for us, I think really it's just, can you break down a low block? And if you can, I want to see a rain of goals.
Yeah, I would love to see it. Speaking of rain here, weather watch is looking pretty good. Partly cloudy in the 80s. Maybe this is the first match where we don't have rain. I will believe it when I see it. It's supposed to be pretty close to a sold out match. So hopefully, we'll pray that it doesn't happen here. Looking at this weekend's match starting at 7:30 p.m. Centerville Bank Stadium. Lot M7 tailgating opens there 4:30, with the rest of the lots open at 5:30. Gates open at 6:30 p.m. for a 7:30 kickoff. You can also check out the action if you can't make to the game on CBS Sports Golazo, ESPN Plus, or tune in with Tom and Nick on 790 The Score for the radio dial. Thank you so much, Torrin, for joining us from the back end here.
Anytime.
Yeah, of course. Hope to see you all at the game. We'll catch you all next time. Anchors up.
Anchors up.
You've been listening to the Raising Anchor Soccer Show. You can follow the show on Twitter, Threads, Blue Sky, and TikTok at RIFC Podcast and at Raising Anchor on Instagram. And be sure to check out and subscribe to Spotify, iTunes, YouTube, or wherever you listen by searching for Raising Anchor. Make sure to check out all of our coverage over at the Blazing Musket for all your New England soccer coverage, including RIFC news at theblazingmusket.com. Fans, we thank you for listening. We ask you to be kind and courteous to your neighbors as you leave the show. We thank you for joining us and look forward to seeing you again. Until then, I'm your main man, Juju, and on behalf of the Raising Anchor crew, goodbye for now. And as always, we are Rhode Island FC.